one of the crown jewels of NASCAR, the Southern 500, is about to have a whole new line of paint schemes as most of the NASCAR drivers have unveiled their throwback schemes. So what do we do today? We talk about all the throwback schemes, and I give my favorite. This is On the Pedal. A very special On the Pedal. Indeed, we're going to go through every single throwback paint scheme there is, talk about them, and rate the throwback schemes on the ones I think are great, the ones I think are those paint schemes, and the ones I think are like best paint scheme I've ever seen, all of them. So first of all, let's get right into this, because this is my first ever time doing this. So Darlington, those of you that don't know, it's throwback weekend, so every NASCAR driver runs a paint scheme that's a throwback. So let's go to this. Brad Keselowski throwing it back to himself 10 years later and still going strong. Discount Tire is going to be throwing it back to themselves, a company that's done so much great to everybody. I think this paint scheme looks good. It's throwing it back to Brad Keselowski's first ever season with Discount Tire. Look, I understand where they're coming from with this, and I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I just kind of wish they didn't go with it the way they did with, don't know how to explain this right. It looks exactly the same as the original Discount Tire one to me. I don't think it's much of a throwback at all. It just looks exactly the same, and I think this is what they could run on an ordinary day. So if you like it, guys, I completely understand. But I just think it's a little bland. But it's still a great throwback. It looks exactly the same, but I still think it's just a little bit on the blander side, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's what I think about it really for Brad Keselowski. Next one is a really cool throwback in my mind. Austin Dillon throwing it back to Junior Johnson. Great tribute, and the schemes look exactly alike. I mean, going to be a stripped down paint scheme, but it looks exactly like the original one that Junior Johnson ran. Junior Johnson, like a legend in the sport himself. Great job by the 3 team and everybody involved with that to really American ethanol to just not even use their colors. It was really cool, and they changed the font, which is cool. I like when they do that and they change the font. Here is a really cool paint scheme. Kevin Harvick, Busch Beer is just amazing. If I want to say this with sponsors, they come up with really cool paint schemes, but this one is amazing. Throwing it back to Busch's Beers when they were a Cup Series, when they sponsored for a Cup Series. Throwing it back to these days is just amazing. Look, it even has the logo on the back of the car. Such an amazing car. In my mind, Busch Beer did a great job with this paint scheme. Just throwing it back to the Busch Beer series, which was a really cool series, I think. And it looks like Ryan Newman is next. Ryan Newman throwing it back to himself in his midget years, which is really cool when he was running USACs. And this is when he won the championship there. So he's throwing it back to himself. Good job. I think this is a really cool paint scheme. Oscar Myers always does really good when the throwbacks, when it comes down to it. And Oscar Myers, such a big supporter of Ryan Newman. Throwing it back, Ryan Newman deserves to throw it back to himself. He's been in the sport all this long. He deserves to throw it back to himself. It looks like Tommy Baldwin will be thrown back to by Josh Bilicki. He will throw it back to Tommy Baldwin, who is a really good guy in the sport as well. And the cars look exactly the same, except it's just it's not like a normal stock car that it was back then, but the cars look really good. Another great paint scheme. The font changed. The colors is blended. Another really amazing paint scheme. And here's one that's very colorful, but still, I love this paint scheme. One of the first ones to be unveiled. I really think this is a cool paint scheme that should be done all the time. I really like this one. Great throwback to Jeff Burton's rookie year, because Tyler Reddick is a rookie. Tyler Reddick throwing it back to Jeff Burton's years as a rookie is a fabulous idea. I love it, and yeah, I just think it's pretty cool. Our first Hendrick one to come up is Chase Elliott. Hendrick's theme is Jimmy Johnson. Let's not get that wrong. I like this one. Throwing it back to Jimmy Johnson when, yeah, it was a really cool, honoring his 7-time champion, the 5th championship, I believe. So it was pretty cool. It was like his 5th in a row is what he's throwing it back to, which I found to be a really cool thing, and I like it totally, and I think it's awesome. The 9 cars throwback is really cool, and I think all of Hendrick's is pretty awesome. This is another really cool paint scheme. The 10 car, throwing it back to NASCAR Hall of Famer Fireball Roberts. Great scheme. Go bowling, the red and the it looks like they nailed the color. They definitely nailed the coloring of the car. The font changed. It's always good when sponsors do that. And yeah, let's see what Denny Hamlin's is. Guess we're going to be throwing it back. Denny Hamlin throwing it back to Carol Yarborough here in this one with the Federal Express car. You know, that's very fancy. FedEx used to be called Federal Express. That's like their, by the way, that is their real name, I believe. But they used to, I mean, FedEx, it was Federal Express, but really cool. 1973 year that Federal Express began, and this is also when Carol Yarborough won at Darlington. So this is when FedEx began, so that's why Federal Express is on there, and Carol Yarborough's championship. So I think that's great. Love the scheme, love the way they did Federal Express. Maybe this car will end up in Victory Lane. And look at this one. I like this one too. These are really good throwbacks. Sometimes we see bad throwbacks, but I think these throwbacks are really cool and stylish, and I like them. The 12 car of Ryan Blaney throwing it back to Paul Menard's 2003 ARCA Championship. Now, yes, I think some of you at home are saying, why does Paul Menard deserve a throwback? He doesn't, but Menards does heavily sponsor Penske, so let's be honest, if you're a heavy sponsor, you deserve a throwback in Penske's minds. Paul Menard getting a throwback to his ARCA Championship. Good for Paul Menard. You know, I wouldn't expect a Paul Menard throwback, but I don't care. The scheme looks really great, and the theme is the 2000s and 1990s, I believe. 1995 to 2000, I believe is what it is, but I like Blaney's car as well. So we keep going and going and going with great schemes, and we're not stopping anytime soon. Look at this one. Clint Boyer throwing it back to Kyle Petty. And the good thing about this is Peak was Kyle Petty's sponsor as well, which really works well with that. It was Kyle Petty's Rockingham win from the pole in 1990. So this is a really cool paint scheme. They even have the pink strip. It's just getting even better. I love this paint scheme. I think it's very cool. It's an amazing paint scheme, no doubt about it. Here we go. Rick Ware Racing also announces all the small teams. I gotta tell you guys, as you go through here, you'll see the small teams have blown it out of the water with their throwbacks. But Rick Ware Racing is going to throw it back to Red Rooster. Brendan Poole throwing it back to the Red Rooster, who is Ricky Rudd, if you guys didn't know. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Red really nails it, and it kind of works out with the nickname. Get where I'm going. This scheme flows very good, and I think this is really cool. Next one we're going to take a look at is first Joe Gibbs, Kyle Busch in the 18 to Elliott Sadler. I love this scheme. Now, it doesn't look, the one thing about the scheme I keep hearing, and I kind of agree, is it's not a throwback. It looks exactly the same as the regular one except for the brown M&M, and I completely agree. But the font looks like Elliott Sadler's 38 font. Kyle Busch and his company, they did a good job throwing it back. I mean, the font looks pretty cool. The car itself looks okay. It looks pretty neat. I don't mind it. And I I think it's all right. He's throwing it back to Elliott Sadler, 2004. So I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cool. I think they should run this M&M scheme all the time. I like their scheme they ran at Daytona for M&Ms. I think that could be my all-time favorite, but I really like this scheme. Kyle Busch's throwback last year is really cool too. Kyle Busch hasn't always been in the throwbacks, by the way. Some drivers just don't do throwbacks, but most drivers are starting to grow into it. But 2017, one of the first years of the throwbacks, I think Kyle Busch just ran his caramel car. The last 2 years, though, he's been into it. Last year, he had, I think, the Snickers one. Not the Snickers one. Was last year Snickers? I think last year was Skittles, and the year before was Snickers, but they're starting to get into it. It's really cool. Today, M&M gets its shot. Another Joe Gibbs racing, the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. announced this throwback paint scheme, which is all right. I don't mind the scheme. I think it looks like the one he ran last year. Not to be rude, but it's still a really sweet paint scheme that is throwing it back to himself. He honors, not himself, throwing it back to his sponsors, I meant. He's actually throwing it back to Hank Parker, the Atlanta race. And it was at Bass Pro Shops, did a good job with the scheme. I'm not going to lie. I think the colors work good. It's a pretty decent scheme. I just think, yes, maybe NASCAR, maybe Martin Truex Jr. likes that style, because I swear it was like the same type of paint scheme he ran last year or a few years ago. It looks exactly the same for the throwback, but who cares? It's a really great scheme. We're on a fabulous roll. I love it. I love it. I want more of these schemes because I think this is really cool. I don't mind this scheme at all. I give it thumbs up. It's a great scheme. It just seems like years in the past, but I'm not going to even let that go. We're on such a great roll. I really think this could be the best year for throwbacks. And here's one of the ones I don't like. Eric Jones' throwback. He's throwing it back to Tony Stewart for the year that he won in Martinsville. Well, not won in Martinsville. Yeah, I think he won in Martinsville. But the year it was at Martinsville. And it was the 2005 Martinsville race. He's throwing it back to that. Smoke is orange. And his car is orange. And this time it was the silver. It was the silver scheme. So you can see it's got the flames and it is silver. It's that. It's got silver. It's got the flames. But if you're going to run a car like this, it's got to be orange. So I'm kind of surprised they couldn't get the Walt to run like an orange, like Austin Dillon got American Ethanol. You know, I wish they were able to get him to run the orange scheme or something like that. I know Home Depot is no longer on the 20, but I wish they could do this, something like that, but they aren't able to do it. So I think they really need to have a throwback like that where they can do something like that, where they can have the red and the orange and the silver, but it's red right now. I don't think it's a bad scheme. I just don't think they worked too hard on this and negotiated too much with sponsors. I think it could have definitely been better. When I look at this scheme, I don't think Tony Stewart. I actually think Eric Jones Sports Clips. It's not his best throwback. It's not the best one here, but we'll let that go. Next one, Paul Menard, another good scheme. 19. He's throwing it back to Hat Trip. A hat trip to the 1963 500 win and owner championship. So Wood Brothers throwing it back to themselves completely. They can do that. You know, Wood Brothers can do that. No doubt about it. Wood Brothers, another great scheme. I love that scheme. Next one, Joey Logano. Still doing good. Joey Logano has a pretty good scheme. He's throwing it back to Bobby Allison. So that's not a bad scheme. I like it. I like the colors. They flow. Pencil has done some cool stuff with their throwbacks in the past too. So I don't mind this one. And I think it works. I think it flows. I think it works really good. I like the way the team did it. And Joey Logano, I like that paint scheme. Maybe better than your original. I kind of like it. And it's even got the star. So classic Bobby Allison there. Let's keep scrolling down here. And they announced as well, another Hendrick Motorsports car, the 24, throwing it back to Jimmy Johnson's All-Star race win in 2013. Great, it's an exact replica, just not have 48 on the side. It has, you know, Liberty. It has 24 and Liberty University, but of course, patriotic scheme that Jimmy Johnson ran because it was near patriotic time, Memorial Day, and it was near that time of year where everyone's so patriotic and 4th of July. Everyone's patriotic during that time, and that's why he was running that scheme for Jimmy Johnson. So Liberty University's colors is exactly the same. So I think the scheme works. I didn't know that this was I didn't think this was the one of the biggest moments when you look at Jimmy Johnson's career, but it's still a big moment. It's an all-star race, so for William Byron, I like this throwback. J.J. Yaley, man, he's throwing it back. This is a really good throwback. Guys, we're on a roll. I like this one too. Kevin Irvin Jr., I like the scheme. It's an exact replica. Look at Nerf on the front. Look, it looks exactly the same except it's Jacob on the front instead of Nerf. I love this. I think this is an awesome scheme. I think this is one of my favorites. This is a really good paint scheme. No doubt about it. We're going on such a good roll, and then we get this one. John Hunter Nemechek will honor Elliott Sadler with a tribute. It just looks red. It has nothing to it. It's just a plain red car. I don't see throwback to that. I guess he kind of changed the font, which is good, but I don't see it. It says sit guard on the 38, and the 21 said sit co. So I guess that's kind of cool, but I don't see it, guys. I don't like this one. I think this is just plain. Let's go to next one, Cole Custer. This is a really good one. I like this one. He's throwing it back to Curtis Turner. He was the 1956 Southern 500 winner. And I like this car. It looks exactly the same, and I think it's a great way for a throwback for them to do that. Great job for Cole Custer and company. I think it's I really like this one. I don't mind this one at all. I think it's a good one. I don't know. You gotta let me know. So, yeah, I don't know about this one. I like it, and I think it's a good one. But so now to Boa Wallace's throwback paint scheme, which was unveiled just a few moments ago. So I'm gonna get to this one right now because it is a video, a very long video that I'm like, just show me the throwback for me. All I care is about the throwback. And yeah, Bubba Wallace is throwing it back to his boss, Richard Petty, the boss man, as Bubba Wallace calls him. A pretty cool scheme, actually. I don't mind this. If I could find it. Cash App throwing it back. Take a look at this. A pretty cool scheme, actually, for Bubba Wallace in Cash App. Throwing it back to the Kins days. So that's a really cool paint scheme. I don't mind that one. I like it. I think it's a cool color. It works with Cash App's colors and all of that. All right, here we go. Next one. It's by far my favorite paint scheme, and if you don't think it is, who cares? The colors are mushed up. 3 different fonts. Guess what? We have 3 different drivers, 21 championships in all, and it's all in one car. It's all the 3 champions together. We have Richard Petty on the top, Dale Sr. on the bottom, and, you know, Jimmy Johnson in the middle. We had a video on this where I actually showed you the scheme and how good it was. If you missed that video, go check it out. We have a lot of news in that one. Go check that video out. But this was really cool. I think this is a really cool paint scheme. And Jimmy Johnson, you did a great job with this. No doubt about it. Next one, Joey Gase. Another great paint scheme here. I think this is a cool scheme with lots of different colors and throwing it back to Bobby Allison. And I like it. I think it's great. Timmy Hill. Look, these lower teams are, as I said, you'll see they're doing it good. He's throwing it back to Phil Parsons, 1994 scheme. I like it. I think this is really sweet. I think this is great. Next one. Whoa, Dale Jr. throwback. Ross Chastain throwing it back to Dale Jr. as one of his first years and using Dirty Mo Media as well. Now this is cool. This is really cool, I think, guys. I'm liking this. Good job, Ross Chastain. I like that throwback. Next one is Alex Bowman as well is here with this throwback scheme. Now this is my favorite of the throwing it back to Jimmy Johnson's. This is throwing it back to Jimmy Johnson's, one of his 2006 championship, this is a sweet car. It looks exactly like Lowe's. When I look at this, I'm like, Lowe's. Sorry to Ally, but when I look at these paint schemes, I think Lowe's. I really like this scheme. All right, we're doing so good. See, when I first saw the scheme, I actually liked it, and I keep hearing some criticism. I don't mind the paint scheme overall, but you're a rookie throwing it back to yourself. I don't know if you have that privilege yet. I mean, we see some veterans that haven't even thrown it back to themselves, so I'm sorry, rookies. I don't think you have privilege to throw it back to yourself yet. He's throwing it, Christopher Bell, again, throwing it back to his championship. Yeah, I don't know. He's throwing it back to his championship in the Truck Series. All right. Yeah, I like it. I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cool. The scheme's cool, but I just don't know if you have privilege to do that. Daniel Suarez doing the same thing, throwing it back to himself. Like, when I first saw this, I thought, wow, he's throwing it back to Carl Edwards. No. Guys, remember, the theme is NASCAR champions. I would think he would be going for Carl Edwards. No. He's throwing it back to himself for his Xfinity Series championship with Eris. And that is going to be what he's doing. Good for him. Just good for him. You want to throw it back to yourself, you throw it back to yourself. I do remember Eris for Daniel Suarez when he was in the 19 car in his Xfinity Series championship. So seeing Eris back on the hood is going to be really cool in NASCAR. But, yeah, I think it's still weird for him to be throwing it back to himself. First I thought Carl Edwards, but no. Also, Startcom Racing announced that Quinn Hoff will be throwing it way back to 1936, where Bill France Sr. assembled Mitt Mariner's racing engine. So the old company that used to make engines for NASCAR was on this car. Quinn Hoff has had his controversy this year, but I don't mind this car. I think it's pretty cool. When under the lights, I think it will look cool too. Throwing it back to some of the people that started NASCAR is just a pat on the back, and that's something to say. Oh, one last thing. This is a tire. The tires get a throwback for Throwback Weekend too, and this is what the tires are going to look like. So, yeah, I think this is really cool. That's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video because I had a blast. One of the best things I've ever done, and I'm so happy. I love doing this now, and I can't wait for next year for Throwback Schemes. If you haven't checked it out already, down below right there, you can see my playoff predictions for this weekend. Make sure you go check them out. Also, go check out my Q&A video. Right now, I don't have enough questions for the Q&A, so if you want to ask any of my questions, get some questions, do that right away. Okay, guys? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fabulous, fantastic, amazing, one-of-a-kind day, and enjoy Throwback Weekend, and I will see you at the National Sports Podcast tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock live, so make sure to tune into that as well. Peace out.